Hi, my name is Steph for anybody that's new here. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with quitting kratom, um, the different things I tried to beat the addiction, and how long it took. Uh, a few months ago, I'd uploaded a video just talking about just simply the fact that I managed to beat my addiction to it. Um, I never imagined it would get the response it's gotten, and I had no clue so many people were battling the addiction to kratom. And I've gotten a lot of questions. So I thought I would come on here and talk more about the process, um, and how long it took me to give you all a better idea. Firstly, I started taking kratom in 2013. I was looking for relief for rheumatoid arthritis, and also something to help elevate my mood. I've dealt with a lot of depression, anxiety. I had a borderline personality disorder, and at the time that I started taking it, I still considered myself someone with it, although I was nearly free of all the symptoms. There were still a few things lingering at that point. But I went to kratom because at the time I wasn't seeing anything indicating that it was addictive. And I already knew that I had an addictive personality. From the ages of 14 to 24, I popped pain pills every single day, with the exception of when I was pregnant with my child. Um, And coming off of pain pills wasn't a piece of cake. Um, I will say that coming off of kratom was much harder. At least in my experience, it was much harder to come off of kratom. I was probably taking the kratom about 2 years before I recognized that it was a problem and I was really addicted to it. Back then, you couldn't find it just at least not where I live. You couldn't just find it at any gas station. There were a couple like smoke shops or head shops around the area that you could get it. But at that time, if I didn't have to leave my house, I wouldn't. My anxiety was really bad at that point. It was somewhat better. I mean, several years before that, I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't even go to the mailbox. Um, but I still struggled greatly to leave the house, so I ordered it online. And there were a few occasions that it got delayed in the mail, and I would run out before it got to me. And I refused to leave my house, and I just could not get myself to go interact with people, ask them for the product, and make the purchase. So I went through the struggle of my body hurts. I feel sick. I can't get out of bed. After 2 or 3 times of the product being delayed in the mail and experiencing this, I recognized it was a problem and I needed to quit. I needed to quit taking the stuff. Um, because I would take it. It didn't start out this way, but pretty quickly it became I would wake up, take it, and probably take another dose every 2 to 3 hours. 4 hours would be my longest stretch. Um, because after a few hours, when the effects start to wear off, my body would crash. It would feel like the worst caffeine crash you've ever had in your life. So typically 2 hours would be as long as I would go, and I would recognize, okay, it's wearing off. Um, it did cause euphoria for me, and I really loved the euphoria. And it definitely helped with the pain. I will say that with the kratom, it does help with pain. I have heard some people say it didn't do diddly for their pain, but for a lot of people, anyways, it definitely does help with pain, and it did help my pain. The other thing I will say is, because I think this kind of plays into how I quit, and how it might be a tad different or a tad longer for you if you try how I did it. With every single drug I've ever taken in my life, and I've taken many, I've never done anything like heroin, but I have snorted stuff up my nose. Um, I have to take much less than most everyone else. Um, so the recommended dosages for the kratom, when I tried taking that, it made me vomit. I mean, it made me violently ill. So I would say I ended up taking about a third of the recommended dose, and that's all I needed. Um, it would give me the euphoria and the pain relief that was needed. Now, I don't know that maybe that's why I was taking it every 2 hours. I don't know if other people taking the recommended dose, um, they're taking it every 6 hours. I have no clue because I don't know anyone else personally that has taken kratom. Um, so I don't know other people's experiences with it really, other than what I've read online. Um, but when I recognized that I needed to quit taking it, I'd say it was 2015, and I tried cold turkey. Repeatedly, I tried cold turkey, and I failed every time. Every single time, I couldn't do it because I would have the worst, most darkest thoughts. My anxiety would be on a level I don't think it's ever been, and I have anxiety disorder. Um, or I did. It's gotten much better. Um, Chirpy bird. Um, I would feel so depressed. I would feel so tired. My body would ache. I would feel sick to my stomach. I never ended up vomiting, but I would feel like I might. And I might feel better if I could. But I never did. It takes a lot to get me to vomit. Um, it was horrible. And I would just want to end it. I would just want to end my life. And I'm already someone at the time, I'd say from the time I was around 11 to the time I was nearly 40, every single day of my life I considered taking it. Um, every day it was an option, it was on the table. I would wake up and think, maybe today's the day I take my life. We'll see what I can handle today. It was always there, but it was so strong coming off the kratom that I thought I might actually do it. And I would give in and take a dose. I mean, I might make it 2 or 3 days, and I would have to take a dose. I couldn't do it any longer. So what I ended up doing was weaning myself off of it. I think not only does it give you euphoria, but it really does like affect the chemistry in your brain, like an antidepressant or antipsychotic or anything for um, mood control. So coming off of it all of a sudden, is catastrophic. I mean, I think it's very dangerous. If you are someone that's already been through this process and you did quit cold turkey and you made it through it and came out on the other side, that's fantastic, and I applaud you. Um, I don't think it's the safest if you're not someone that's done this. If you want to try it that way, if you go a couple days and you have extremely dark thoughts and you don't think you're going to make it, take a dose. I would much rather you take a dose of kratom than to take your own life. And I'm sure your loved ones feel the same way. So I think it's very similar to suddenly stopping medication for depression and anxiety and mood disorders. Um, because I have had moments that I didn't have the money to pick up my medication because I didn't have insurance at the time, and I would suddenly be out of my meds, and it was never good. It was never good. But this was even worse. I'd say this was even worse. And then just suddenly stopping. So what I did was wean myself. And to start, um, instead of taking it when I just woke up, I would push myself like an hour after I'd been awake. I wouldn't always make it the hour. Sometimes it would be a half an hour when I first started doing it. But as long as I made it that half hour, um, not waking up, because it was my morning routine. Wake up, get a Dr. Pepper, put the powder in some water, because primarily I took the powder, mixed it in water, and knocked it back. Um, I found the effects hit you much quicker than taking a capsule of it. I did take the capsules when I was at work or out and about. So I would get my Dr. Pepper and do whatever I did online, because it was always, I'd wake up scrolling Facebook or something. Um, and when I felt like I was really aching for it, if it hadn't been a half an hour yet, I had to hit that half hour mark. I had to hit that half hour mark before I would take it. But if I made it to the half hour mark and I felt like I could go another half, I would, and make it to that hour mark and then take my first dose. And I did this until my body adjusted to not taking it until an hour after being awake. And then what I would do is that after I was awake for an hour and I would take my first dose, I cut that first dose in half. Um, and again, I would wait for my body to adjust to that dosage before I would make another change. Then I would push it and see if I could go an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then take that half a dose. Now the rest of the doses, I remained at what I was used to taking. For the rest of the day, it would be my full dosage. But after I was making it like 2 hours, my next dose, once my body was used to waiting 2 hours before taking it, and I was taking that half a dose, and my body had adjusted to that, the following dose, I would split in half. Again, every time you make a change, let your body get used to it. I would usually go about 2 weeks with that change. And now once that second dose was half a dose and I was used to that, I would pull it in some more and make my first dose 3 hours after being awake. And I'm pretty sure that's about as far as I went on that, the 3 hour mark of being awake before I would take it. And then from then on out, I decreased my dose by half. So once my body was used to, okay, I'm going 3 hours without taking it, take a half a dose. Second dose, half a dose. When I was used to that, I would make my third dose half a dose, and then the normal dose until the rest of the day. I think you follow what I'm saying here. Keep decreasing your dosages until your body gets used to that. Then the next thing I did So I've got it 3 hours, but then I'm taking half a dose the rest of the day until I'm taking my last dose that I'm used to taking and then going to bed. Then I was trying to pull in when my last dose was. So say my last dose would normally be at 9 p.m. I'd make it 8 p.m. And I'd pull that dose in until I had a very small window of when I was taking it. I'm pretty sure I ended up pulling my first dose in even further after. I came both ways. Once I started bringing the end time in, I brought this time in more as well. So it would end up being from like noon to 4 p.m., let's say, because I would take it every 2 hours. So that would be 3 dosages. So maybe I did 3 dosages, but I know it was like in a 4 hour time span. So my dose at noon, my half dose at 2, and then my half dose at 4. And once I got it to there, I quit. One day I just said I'm not taking anymore. Now, depending on how much you were taking, because like I said in the beginning, I was taking about a third of a dose compared to what most people, what they recommended. So you may need to decrease your dosage yet again before bringing it in this far and before stopping it. Just know if you're taking the pretty standard dose, or especially if you know you were taking a much higher dose than what was recommended, you're going to want to continue to decrease your dosages before pulling the times in. Keep decreasing your dosages until your body adjusts to it by half of whatever the amount, so say you were taking a full tablespoon. I don't remember if that, I don't remember. You're going to decrease that by half. So you're going to be taking like not even 2 teaspoons, because I think a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, if I'm not mistaken. So it would be a teaspoon and a half. And then you decrease that by half. So it would be 3/4 of a teaspoon. At the 3/4 mark, you might be good to bring the dose in. If you're going by grams, it'll be easier to decrease your grammage by half. That's how I did it. So when I got it down to, for me, I was taking 1/4 of a teaspoon towards the end, 1/4 of a teaspoon every 2 hours, 3 times a day, and then I quit. Because that's really very little. And I did fine. Just once I got my body used to that, I'm only taking it 3 times in the small span with this very small dosage. My body did perfectly fine not taking it again. Now, the only thing is, I had beat the physical addiction. My body was no longer physically addicted to it. After I went a couple weeks of not taking it at all, I was through it. It was still a little rough, bringing it down that low and then quitting. It still wasn't a fun time. It still hurt. My body ached and I was cranky. And the suicidal thoughts were not there. Other than my typical suicidal thoughts. It was no worse than usual. That is so sad to say. But yeah, it still was not a walk in the park, but it was much easier than just cold turkey right off the bat. And it was about, I'd say the first week was the worst. The second week, it was much easier, but definitely 2 weeks out, my body was no longer addicted to it. My mind was, though. My mental, I still wanted it to escape. I wanted it for the euphoria. So I would occasionally take it for 2 or 3 days. Know that I didn't want to take it any longer than that because I didn't want my body physically addicted to it again, and then go another 2 weeks without taking it. Someone did ask me if I thought you could take it on occasion. And I do. I do think if even if you are someone that has addictive tendencies, if you respect it and know that it can lead to addiction and take it when it is absolutely necessary, when you absolutely feel like you really need it for the pain, sure. But do not take it more than 2 or 3 days in a row. And if you're more susceptible to addiction, then just know your body. You know your body. So if you feel like I could only take it this one day to not become addicted to it, just take it the couple times you need it that day to get through whatever pain you're going through. There were occasions that I took it for pain. It wasn't just for I want to escape what's going on in my reality. But again, I would only take it 2 or 3 days. And then I'd go 2, 3 weeks. Sometimes I'd even go a month without taking it. At that point, it's a mental addiction. So that was the process. I do think kratom is still, it's great for pain. It is great for pain, but you need to respect it. You absolutely need to respect kratom and take it sparingly. Now, I was probably I think it was about 2018 when so I started trying to quit taking kratom in 2015. It took me 3 years to get to the point that my body wasn't addicted to it. Hey, Steph from the future. I wanted to say it didn't take me 3 years of trying to wean myself. It was 3 years of attempts. So there was quite a while where I kept trying to attempt the cold turkey. It wouldn't work. And then I might go a few months before I tried again. So it wasn't 3 years of weaning myself. I'm sure that was under a year process. I don't remember exactly. But I repeatedly tried cold turkey and, failed, and then I would go several months before I tried again. But the point was I kept trying, and it took 3 years of repeated trying. Just wanted to clarify that. Didn't take me 3 years to wean myself. And it was only a mental thing. And from 2018 to March of 2021, that was my last dose. And then I went until November, and my mom was getting ready to have surgery, and I was in freak out land, and I self-destructed a little bit. I took one dose, one tiny dose, a quarter of a teaspoon dose. I felt like absolute butt. I said, I don't know why the hell I took this, and I have not taken it since. So I have been almost a year and a half with no kratom whatsoever. And other than that one tiny dose, I'm at 2 years. So it was a process. I want you to know this is a process. It'll be easier for some. But while you're doing this, do not beat yourself up. There's going to be some days, even on the I'm slowly weaning myself, that you just take it like you always took it because you're having a bad day. Please, please, please don't beat yourself up. Please don't beat yourself up. That's not how you beat an addiction. You do not beat an addiction by telling yourself you're bad or you're no good or you can't do it or you're worthless, anything like that. Please be patient with yourself. Remember, it is a process. Days that you feel like you messed up, you went back and just went back to the way it always was, no matter how far you've come in the process. Just know it was a bad day. Dust yourself off and start again tomorrow. It's okay. There were many days that I failed. You're human. It's okay. Please, please, please give yourself love and patience during this. It requires a lot of self-love. If you beat yourself up, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. It's not time to scold yourself. It's time to love yourself. And know that you will make it through this. Because I know it seems like it's never going to end. When you're in it and you're battling it, it feels like you will never, ever break free of it, but you will. Just be patient, be persistent, and keep at it. And forgive yourself for the bad days. Please forgive yourself for the bad days, because we all have them. Every single one of us have bad days. So as far as the withdrawals and how bad they are, it depends on your body makeup, your body chemistry, how long you've been taking this, and how much you take. Again, wean yourself slowly. That'll make it an easier process. Just keep going. Believe you can do it, because I know you can. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it if I can do it. I promise you, because reach out to me if you need to reach out, and reach out to a friend. I don't know if there's any places yet that I'm sure you can go to facilities for addiction, but I don't know if any of them specialize in kratom. I really don't know, but please reach out to someone if you need to reach out. Even if it's to me in a comment, and I promise you I will try to get back to you as soon as I see your comment. So I hope this helps. I think I've said that like 12 times now. I love you. Keep at it. You will get through this. And I'll see you in the next video.